time for This Week in East Brunswick, your video magazine of events in and around town. Tonight we'll hear from Coach Bill Pellegrino about the swimming and diving teams and their upcoming conference meets. This week we covered the Artist in Residence program at the East Brunswick Public Library. We also looked at an unusual art exhibit at the Mason Gross School of the Arts. The theme was hunger. An unusual visitor showed up at St. Bartholomew's School last week, Benjamin Franklin. All this and more, including our review of the Town Council meeting, tonight on This Week in East Brunswick. At 8:30, we will show the town meeting with Congressman Jim Corder in its entirety. And here's a look at what's happening next week on Channel 8. Monday at 10 a.m., watch Look Great, Feel Great with Lenore Kulik. At 10:30, we bring you stories from the library. Tuesday night at 7, the City of Beverly Hills presents In Print. At 7:30, we'll show Sports Talk with host John Meggiolaro. At 8 on Tuesday, we will repeat Congressman Jim Corder's town meeting. Wednesday at 7:30, For Art's Sake, features the Prince of the Blues, New Brunswick's own Frankie Lee. At 8 p.m., watch The Arts, a production of Piscataway Community Television. This Week in East Brunswick returns Thursday at 7 and 8. At 7:30, Sandra Landman talks about the East Brunswick of the past, with guests Kelly Kellerman and Grace Auer on EB People. Check the Channel 8 program guide for recasts of the week's shows. Now let's go over to the Middlesex County College pool and meet East Brunswick High School swim coach Bill Pellegrino.
Good afternoon, my name is Bill Pellegrino. I'm one of the swim team coaches at East Brunswick High School. There are two coaches, Mr. Doug Jordan, who has been with coaching for a good number of years. He's the expert. We also have a diving coach named Diane Densey. Our schedule calls for us this coming week to meet Cedar Ridge in a co-ed meet on Thursday, and this Friday we will meet Sayreville. At this point, the boys are have 7 wins and 4 losses, and the girls are at a 500 mark at 6 and 6. We also have an outstanding diver with us named Stefan Nadelman, who last year, as a 10th grader, was the state champ. This year, as a junior, we hope he's going to repeat the same as the 1 meter champ. We'd like to encourage as many parents and fans to come out because swimming is such a great carryover sport. This coming week, on the 22nd, Wednesday, at North Brunswick High School, the GMC diving will take place. On the 23rd and the 24th, the boys will compete on Thursday, and the girls will compete on Friday. All 3 meets will be held at North Brunswick High School. We certainly encourage you to come out and support your team, either as a fan or as a parent. In the coming week, we will have our team state championships, and then the first week in March, all those who qualify for individual state championships will compete at Princeton. Okay, some of the outstanding swimmers that we have. I'll talk about some of our girls first of all, starting with Kim Phillips, who is a senior who has been swimming with us for 4 years. She swims the 200 and she swims the 500. Lisa Patel, a 4-year swimmer, swims the individual medley for us and swims the 100 breaststroke. Grania Maggio swims the individual medley and also swims the 100 butterfly. Some other outstanding swimmers: Judy Young, a senior, 4-year letter winner, is a breaststroker for us. Gretchen Harris, who is a 10th grader, who is probably one of our outstanding 500 and 200 freestyle competitors. Ellen Dowling, who is our 500, swims our 500 freestyle, swims our IM, and also swims our butterfly for us. Stephanie Gershon, one of our butterflyers, one of the most difficult events to swim, and also swims our freestyle for us. Our boys team, some outstanding swimmers: Matt Scappi, a senior, 4-year letter winner. He swims just about anything we want him, we ask him to swim. He is our individual medalist. He can swim the 100 and the 50 and just about any stroke that we would like. Outstanding swimmer. Jerry Gordon swims our 200 and our 500. Eric Schaefer swims our butterfly and our backstroke. Some other outstanding boys. Eric Backenheimer swims our 200 and our 500. Jerry Ying, who's a senior, who swims the 50 free and the 100 free. Ken Ernst, a butterflyer backstroke for us. Jeff Ford swims the breaststroke and the backstroke for us. An additional swimmer who has really come a long way, Arthur McFadden, swims our 200 and swims our 500, and again will swim just about anything we've asked of him to swim. Two additional consistent performers, Tom Gurman, backstroker, freestyler, and Adam Keller, who swims our backstroke and our butterfly. We certainly would encourage as many people as possible to come out and see the kids swim.
Don't let cold weather stop you from keeping fit. With a little attention to details, it is possible to get through the winter months with little disruption in your exercise routine. I'm Phil Hostler, Certified Athletic Trainer, East Brunswick High School. I'm sure you found that exercising outdoors requires greater attention to clothing for protection and for comfort. Exercising outdoors in cold weather requires wearing layers of clothing. 3 proper layers will afford adequate protection in almost any cold weather situation. The first layer should be cotton because of its comfort and ability to breathe. That is, it allows airflow next to the surface of your skin. The second layer should be one which is warm and absorbent and allows for air movement. The outermost layer should be a lightweight material which is both wind and water resistant. Today's materials will protect against wind and water while also breathing to release moisture from perspiration. On cool days, wear clothing which can be adjusted. A sweatshirt with a zipper which allows you to open it if you get too warm is better than a pullover. A runner's legs are the most active group of muscles and generally only need to be covered with 1 or 2 layers of clothing. Even in cold weather, your feet will become warm and generally 1 pair of socks is sufficient. Walkers may want to wear a thin and a thicker pair of socks simply because they don't generate as much heat while exercising. For your hands, mittens are warmer than gloves since it's the air space between your fingers that keeps them warm. Wear a wool cap. It can save up to 40% of the heat normally lost during exercise. When running, biking, or walking on a cold, windy day, you should travel into the wind on your way out and with the wind on your way back home. Traveling into the wind is more stressful and should be avoided when you are tired. Also, if you are damp from sweating, the sudden and uncomfortable chill you'll get when the wind hits you head-on may be more than you anticipated. Ice and snow-covered pavements and roadways are dangerous. On certain days, it may be best to avoid risking a bad fall or twisted ankle by simply exercising indoors. If you exercise outdoors, remember that you want to be highly visible to cars. A wintertime driver's visibility is reduced by snow on the sides of the roads and sun glare. Anyone exercising on the road should also exercise caution. Be aware of sunrise and sunset when the low sun may be in the driver's eyes, making it more difficult to see you. Anticipate situations where you have to move quickly to avoid snow and ice, as well as sewer grates. A slower pace may be the safer pace. Cold weather certainly dictates changes in your outdoor exercising habits, but can safely and effectively be dealt with. Many devoted warm weather exercisers lose their level of conditioning during the winter months when forced to deal with the cold climate. In the next Sportscare, I'll give you a few examples of inexpensive indoor winter exercise routines. This is Phil Hostler, urging you to remember good sports care.
History came alive at St. Bartholomew's School last Thursday when Ben Franklin showed up and talked to the students about his life, colonial culture, and his experiments with lightning and electricity. He's actually actor Ralph Archibald of Philadelphia, who travels the East Coast making presentations at school assemblies and visits to classrooms.
I like to remember how things were when I was your age and lived in a very exciting place. I grew up in a city a long way from here. A city called Boston. And if you have ever heard of Boston, you might know it's right by the ocean, where all of those huge ships with full sails would come in from all over the world. And every chance I had, I would go down to the harbor in Boston, and I would watch those ships. I would stand there, hiding between two huge barrels, and I would peek out. I would see the captain shouting out orders, hoist those sails! And all the sailors would go running around, and they would pull up the anchor, and they would raise up the sails, and they would sail away all over the world on great adventures. And I decided that was the answer for me. I would become the captain on one of those ships. I would sail all over the world, and I would have great adventures. But my father didn't like that idea. When I told my father I wanted to be a sailor, he said, "Oh, no, Ben. Remember your brother." I remembered. I had a lot of brothers. We had a big family. There were 17 children in my parents' family, and I was the youngest boy with 9 older brothers and 7 sisters. And one of those brothers, Josiah, was a sailor. He sailed away, and he never came back. Well, my mother and father didn't want that to happen with me. So instead of being a sailor, my father decided I would go to school. Now back then, not everyone had a chance to go to school. You were lucky if you could go to school. If you didn't go to school, you had to go to work. I was 8 years old.
Artist Sue Torconi was featured in the center of the East Brunswick Library last week as part of the library's ongoing Artist in Residence program. Here Sue explains her technique of hand coloring photographs.
The image that I'm working on right now is black and white. However, on the wall behind me, there is a finished example of this print that was sepia toned first. Instead of toning this print, I'm just going to color the whole thing brown for the most part to get the same warm texture. When you work on the print, you don't need a brush. You can use cotton balls, Q-tips, rags, anything. Some people might want to use a brush, say for fine detail, like in these flowers, but if you use pencils, you'll get the same effect. Now, unfortunately, most of my tubes are leaking, so just bear with me. One other thing to remember while you work, after you put the pigment on, you wipe it off. The nature of the medium is such that when you are finished, you will end up with the color that you want where you want it. And no doubt that has some sophisticated chemical reason, which I could not explain. It just works. An interesting feature of this particular method is I could stop right now and leave it wet. And leave it wet for a week and then come back and work on it. Or I could decide tomorrow morning that I'm unhappy with the way it's going and just pour turp on it, or actually what is recommended, this is called PM solution, to take away areas that I don't particularly like. To do a portrait is a lot less time-consuming or complicated. The company has been nice enough to label the pigment such as flesh. So if you're doing a portrait, everybody gets flesh. And cheek. We make our people look very healthy with a little cheek. Anyone can learn how to hand color. It just takes a little time, a little experimenting, and it's really fun.
Hello, I'm Stuart Davis for This Week in East Brunswick. And with me today is Mary Lou Wilbert, who is with the National Huntington's Disease Association. Mary Lou has had quite an experience with Huntington's disease. She lost her husband as well as 2 sons to the disease and is now an advocate to get more information out on the disease and what can be done to help people who suffer from it. Mary Lou, tell me about your involvement with this association.
Well, the one thing we would like people to know is they're not alone. If they want help, we're there. We have 3 different groups that we aim at. They're the at-risk. That is the children of people who have Huntington's, the actual person themselves who has already manifested the disease, and the caretakers.
Before we go any further, let's tell our audience what Huntington's disease is.
Huntington's disease is a genetic disease, which means it's inborn. It is a disease of the central nervous system where eventually the patients lose all their facilities, their speech, their movements. They are totally bedridden.
Okay, and how have you gotten involved in this?
Well, I've had 3 people with the disease. I had 1 son who was institutionalized for 9 years. My second son that developed the disease unfortunately only lived about 6 months after he had been institutionalized. I kept him home as long as possible because I knew he couldn't take that particular type of environment. It's very hard, and each one is an individual. I've had 3 with it, and no 3 have been alike. So that there's a little bit of difference with each and every patient.
Mm-hmm. Now, you come to our studio at a timely moment. You're on your way to Washington.
Every year, the organization petitions senators and legislators in Washington to try and explain to them what the disease is and that we need help. We have no cute little boy that we can put a picture up and say, help this child, because our patients all die. There's nothing can be done. So that when it comes to monies, we always seem to be on the bottom end of everything. When Washington decides to cut institutions and agencies, they cut us. The catastrophic care bill that got passed, that does not help us at all. That bill is only for acute nursing. We need custodial care. There again, we need specialized care because they are specialized treatment that has to be done. Mm-hmm. But we will even though the people who are on Social Security will wind up paying for it, will wind up getting nothing out of it.
How would you know whether you're at risk?
Well, you would know because someone in your family just ahead of you has had it or has died from it. There's no such thing as skipping generations. It may be that that particular family group does not manifest until they're 40, 50, or 60 years old. Unfortunately, in ours, it was much younger. So that it's kind of devastating to have to sit and worry if you trip on something, oh my God, it's starting. You or I trip on something, we call us clumsy. I've got 2 knees right now that I look like I'm 5. So but that's just the way that it goes. And
it passes either to
male or female. There's no difference.
So if a parent has died from this, what are the chances of the child?
50% of the siblings will manifest. And there's really no pre-symptomatic testing. Right now we've isolated a mark that we feel is a pretty good indication. But there again, we're going to run into problems of, do people really want to know? Do you really want to wake up every day and think, oh, I only have so many more days that I'll be able to be productive and be able to keep on going, or what do I do?
Right. We only have about a minute left. What can you say? What can we do to help?
If anyone is interested or needs help of any kind, they can call 201-828-3070. That is our hotline. If you're uncomfortable calling something like that because you feel you'll get a tape, or you're just uncomfortable with, call me. My number is 727-6842. Try anytime, keep going. I work. I'm not always home, but if you call at midnight, fine. If you call 6 o'clock in the morning, fine. But call. You're not alone.
That was 727-6842?
Right.
Okay.
Just to let you know, you're not alone. If you want me to go with you, if you want me to tell you what to do, call me.
Okay. Thank you so much. You're doing a great job out there.
Thank you.
And I hope you, you continue and get some of the bills and money that you need to make life easier for those who have it. Thanks for joining us for This Week in East Brunswick. I'm Stuart Davis.
Hi, my name is Beth Rissette. I'm here at Mason Gross School of the Arts in New Brunswick, New Jersey at Rutgers University. And this is a show that runs this week of February 13th through the 17th. It's a show I've organized, and the name of the show is Hunger Show, and its intention is to examine issues of hunger. And issues of hunger being literal hunger, hunger throughout the world, and also larger questions of hunger, hunger of our desires, what we as people really need, So I started thinking about this a couple months ago. I made up a flyer that addressed some of these issues, and I hung it up around school and sent some out to people that I thought might be interested. And this is some of what's come back. This is an artist, Paul Powell, and he's examining fairly straightforwardly, issues of priority and what is available to people, what isn't available to people. There's so many different types of hunger, different types of desires. Here over to my left is a piece that's using bread as a very this artist is Gregory Sales, by the way, Gregory Sale, and he described this piece to me as having to do with his spiritual hunger, So he redid the regular shape of the bread into this shape, which has a spiritual significance to himself. This is my piece here. It's entitled "Freedom to Consume," and it's attempt to look at how our desires are manipulated and how we are convinced to consume basically garbage that's really not very good for us. Okay, I guess another important hunger that we have is, hunger for knowledge and hunger for contemplation. And there's a few pieces in the show that examine those. This is a piece by Philip Wharton, and here is another piece by Sally McCorkle, also examining a similar thing, how what we desire, a chair of contemplation, but yet it's kind of hovering above our heads where we can't sit in it, we can't, so it's really outside of our availability, but yet very much within our vision. This is I guess we'll end on a fun, enjoyable note. This is a piece by Dolores Amore and Celeste Fleming, and it's a very playful piece. It's actually made out of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and it was quite an effort to get it to be in this form. You know, it kept falling over, and so you really need to be here though to experience the whole olfactory sense of it. It's very, very smelly. It smells the whole gallery. Not quite today as much as yesterday, but it's very sticky.
At Tuesday night's council action meeting, the council once again turned down a developer's request for reducing performance bonds. This time the council said no to the developer of Birch Hill Estates. Residents of the new development off Summerhill Road convinced the council to hold the bonds until alleged drainage problems are corrected. Also Tuesday, the council adopted an ordinance to begin acquisition procedures for land along the proposed New Brunswick Avenue realignment. The council also approved a resolution urging the state to expedite the replacement of the deteriorating Route 18 bridge over Main Street. And the council listened to 3 recommendations for the use of an $87,000 community development block grant. One suggestion was converting this Peachtree Nursery School on Dunham's Corner Road to a recreation facility. It is hoped the land there would be donated by the New Jersey Turnpike Authority. Installing handicap-accessible doors at the library was another suggestion, and a third recommendation was applying the funds to an ongoing expansion of the Camp Daisy program in Bicentennial Park. The council asked for more information on these recommendations before it decides where the federal funds will go. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.